We start with Sasi Samba. Of course, Tenganan is famous for a few things. Obviously, famous for its gringsing, double ikat, woven textiles. What you see here on the photo, and that's the what is called locally makarakar pandangan, war as they call it. The outside world refers to, Bali Aga, non-Bali Aga used to refer to actually the descendants of the indigenous people of Bali. Bali Aga means people of the mountain, so it's actually a little bit considered as an insult by some of the Bali Aga communities. They prefer to refer to themselves as the Bali Mula, the original Balinese people. There's about 61, 62 original Bali Mula villages identified in Bali, all spread out. It's not only Tenganan Pegringsing, but this particular village had been put on the map by some anthropologists and subsequent also a lot of tourists. It's a very unique. Their culture predates Hinduism. Hinduism came to Bali around the middle of the 14th century when the Hindu kingdom moved from Majapahit, Central Java to Bali. But there were obviously already communities living on Bali, and they had a much older culture and belief and traditions, much more closer to Neolithic cultures, Stone Age cultures. And Tenganan is one of them. They don't have any caste system, etc. A lot of things have been introduced but with the arrival of Hinduism. Tenganan, there's no caste. It's very much focused on older beliefs. Nobody's allowed to leave the village. If you want to marry somebody from outside the village, you have to leave the village. You can never come back. They really try to keep the village pure, authentic, and they're generally quite against any modern change. Even today, if you've been in Tenganan recently, you see a lot of those tourist shops and so on in their traditional houses. They actually now try to move these tourist shops to the parking area to bring back the village to its original state. This is what it's famous for, but I actually wanted to explain a little bit what is surrounding the Pandan War, the Makarakara, because there's a whole month of ceremonies which is called the Sasi Semba, which is the most important annual returning ceremony for the people of Tenganan. And it's a sequence of different rituals, and the culmination is this Pandan War, the Makarakara, but there's a lot of ceremonies that actually happen before that. 1 month long ceremony starts with a set of these ancient ferry wheels. In Balinese or in Indonesia, they call it ayunan. These are very old ferry wheels. In Tenganan, when the start of this big ceremony starts, they set up 3 of these ferry wheels in the village. The actual ceremony starts with something very funny, and this is called Malin Malin. The village is divided in different kind of clans, and this is ceremonial. It's part of the ceremony where 2 men actually steal something from the central ballet, the ballet in the village, steal meats, and they're then being chased by the other men of the village. They get a lot of makeup on their face, they get dress of raw meat on their head, they get sometimes cowbells hung around their neck, and then they're being paraded through the village to show to everybody else in the village that you cannot get away with crime. And this is part of the rituals that are part of this big ceremony once a year. I mean, these are like clowns, right? But this is really old Balinese culture, or part of the culture of the Bali Mula in the village of Tenganan. Before the actual Pandan War, they have the evening before they start to use these ferries wheels. The women and the boys of the village, they take turns. The next day, young girls of the village, they are being initiated in what you call in the Bali, the Daha and the Tuna, the bachelor boys and the bachelor girls. It's a kind of a coming of age ceremony that in Tenganan takes place in the middle of the forest on a big hill outside the village. Here, the 3 girls that are lined up, they get some instructions, and they get to hear stories about their traditions and culture and history and so on. And it's a little bit like a test and a coming of age ceremony before the actual main ceremony starts. Then they take young coconut, the inside of a young coconut, and they make these headpieces, all dress up in the middle of the forest. This is on top of the hill under a sacred tree. They make some offers, and then they go back to the village where then the actual ceremony starts. They change, they dress up, and this is the traditional gringsing textile, double ikat. If I'm not mistaken, this comes also from India or somewhere more further to the west. It's a sacred piece of textile. It's believed that it protects the wearers. It helps against sickness, and it takes years to make one of these. You go to the pandan war. This is pandan, kind of a palm with these thick leaves with these thorns on it. It's a little bit like a yucca. Very sharp thorns. This is the weapon they use during the Pandan War, and this is the shields that they use. They're made from rattan, and that's where they protect them with. The people in Tenganan, their supreme god is Dewa Indra, and he's the lord of war, the god of war, and he is the supreme god over other gods. And during this month-long ceremony, the culmination is this Pandan War, where they actually have to shed some blood as a kind of, appreciation towards Dewa Indra, the god of war. So it's part of their belief that some blood has to be shed. There's no winners, there's no loser. Blood has to flow, which is actually something that happens in a lot of different cultures all over Indonesia. The wounds are usually cured with a local traditional medicine with turmeric, galangal, and some vinegar. After the Pandan War is finished, the young girls that have just been coming of age, they're going one by one completely dressed up with the golden headpiece and so on the swing, and then they are accompanied by 6 of the older girls from the Daha, and so they all take turns. The older young girls, they join one by one, the newcomers. The fairy wheel symbolizes the circle of life, and the ups and the downs in the circle of life, and that's symbolized in this fairies wheel, and you do that kind of all together in different combinations of people. And so all the older young adults, they take a few rides with each of the new girls and boys that have come of age and have joined the adolescents in the village. After the fairy wheel event, there's a little break. And then all the girls and boys change again their dress and they dance Rejang, which is one of the most sacred dances in almost any Balinese culture. In all these Bali Aga villages, there are some unique kind of leftover habits, practices, ceremonies, and so from almost Neolithical time. And then there's always a different mixture of new ceremonies, dances, etc. that have been kind of taken on board over centuries effectively. But in every Bali Aga village or Bali Mula village, there's a lot of differences. Another Bali Aga or Bali Mula village, Trunyan, on the foot of Mount Abang, on the east shore of Lake Batu. There's more old culture and ceremonies so left in Trunyan compared with most other Bali Mula or Bali Aga villages in Bali. Batu, this is Lake Batu, and then Trunyan is here. This is Trunyan from above. Just when you take the road, it's a dead-end road following the east shore of the lake, and on the right side, that's the village. These houses now are gone. There's a few left when you climb actually Gunung Abang to the kind of the highlands behind the rim of this huge caldera. These are the traditional houses of the Bali Mula, the Bali Aga in Trunyan and surroundings. Most of them have now collapsed, except if you really go high up, quite remote, and there's still a few left. Just earth, rocks, bamboo. There's the kitchen on the right-hand side. The whole family live in a house like that. When you take a little boat, you can actually visit the cemetery. What is unique amongst the community in Trunyan is that in Trunyan they don't cremate the dead people. In fact, none of the Bali Mula villages cremates, because cremation came with Hinduism. The village where I live on the western slope of Batukaru, they don't cremate. There's 3 villages in a row, so Bali Mula, there's no cremations there. Agung is not important for them. The sacred mountain and forest is Batukaru. There's no smoke allowed to go up the mountain. It's a sacred mountain, and it's one of the reasons why there's no cremations, and the Ogohogo are also not burned and so on, and it's quite different. In Trunyan, the people are buried above the ground. It means you don't call it bury. Okay, the dead people are put above the ground. These are some effigies at the entrance of the cemetery. This is just a basket with some textile, very, very simple. This is the actual cemetery. It's a kind of bamboo, little tents. And I think there's maximum 10 of them. If they're all full, they have to wait until one becomes vacant and then they can use the same spot again. A lot of offers, as you see, it's not rubbish. It is rubbish, but these are all leftover offers during the funerals. This is where the dead are put to rest, just in some textile. When people die, they are washed with rainwater, wrapped in textile and put under this little bamboo frame. The frame is basically to keep some scavenging animals away. But other than that, they leave it up to nature what happens with the deceased, with the body. Some personal belongings are just put outside the little cages, and they mummify the deceased quite regular. No, it depends a little bit how much time they have. The only people that are allowed to be buried here are people that are married. People that have never been married, they are not being buried here on this cemetery. They are buried just in the village itself. This same lady, she was buried, I think, about 2 weeks or so before I was there. The same lady 4 months later. And this was another 4 or 6 months after that. Kind of after a year. The same lady, once everything is gone and only just some bones are left over in the skull, then it's time for them to take the skull, some of the bones, and clean up the grave and make place for the next burial. This is the Tarumenyan tree, which is a sacred tree, and according to the locals there, the reason why you don't smell any decaying bodies, etc., is because of this tree. Releases a certain scent that neutralizes the smell of decay. It is absolutely true that I've never smelled any decaying body. You can try to smell the leaves or the bark or whatever. The tree itself doesn't smell, but according to the locals, the tree releases this scent that neutralizes the scent of the decaying bodies. When there's only skulls and bones left, they're being cleansed and then they're put on this little stone altar just under the Tarumenyan tree. They just leave them there. After a while, these skulls, they roll away, they decompose, and they just stack them up, and there's not much meaning anymore to the skulls themselves. Same village. This was the photo that I guess caught some of your attention. This is also Trunya. Once every 2 years, during the 4th month of the Balinese calendar, there is this incredibly sacred ceremony taking place, which coincides with the anniversary of the main temple in the village, and is generally referred to as Barang Bruto. The boys that are coming of age, they are being ritually cleansed. They go into quarantine for 42 days in the village temple, not allowed to go outside, not allowed to drink, gamble, meet girls, meet anybody else. They are being cleansed. They have to learn ancient mantras and songs, etc., with the high priest of the village, and they have to prepare their outfit for the main event. Big whips. They have to prepare all this. They have to prepare kind of a corset. This is a corset that's made from dry banana leaf or a special kind, and they make these corsets, and then they make big skirts. Traditionally, they were also wearing just a banana leaf robe as a kind of a loincloth. Nowadays, you see a little batik. Then they take the sacred masks and go inside for the last blessings before the ceremony and before they put on their banana leaf dress. 21 different masks. 4 of them are representing nobles. And these are historic figures from the Trunyan history. You had the Brutuk king, you had the Queen Brutuk, and then you had the sister of the Brutuk queen, and then you had the older brother, Pati, the prime minister. They have different masks. They have more flowers and palm leaf ornaments on their head, like this one. They represent the nobles, and then the others, they all represent the common citizens. The mask itself is made from coconuts, from the complete skin of the coconut, and then the hair is from ijuk, from the palm. When everybody's ready, they're all paraded around the outer parameters of the temple. You don't see many other people. Everybody else is outside the wall of the temple. When the nobles come out, the high priest makes some offers, and then it's about time to start. This is a whip, like 10 meters at least long whip, and they start to whip at everybody that gets close by. But more importantly, when you get hit by the whip, it brings good luck. It works like a medicine. So actually the people in the village, they're all, or you'll see that later in photos, they're all very far away. Because you don't want to be too close when you get hit, but you do want to get hit just, just a little bit. The people that are watching the event, they try to steal parts of the banana leaf dress because the banana leaves are believed to bring good luck, particularly fertility. So people from the village, they try to steal them. They try to lure these butuk to them and try in a sneaky way, hey, you try to get hit and from behind I'll try to steal a piece of the banana leaf to bring back home, store at home for fertility. And once the rice planting season starts, you actually use dried banana leaf from this butuk dress for a good harvest. After a couple of rounds, they move to the inner part of the temple, start to chase around 3 times. Then some people get a little bit closer and start to make small offers to the butuk. The moment that you come with offers, you approach the butuk, they kind of calm down. They will not beat you up, and you actually get a blessing in return with the end of the whip. So he's actually blessing, and that's a little bit the idea of the whole event. Then after the inner temple, when they receive all these offers from other villagers, then they go back again to the outer area of the temple, and that's kind of the last chance for people to get whipped. Here you have a little bit of an idea. So they walk around and everybody's kind of keeping a safe distance, some more safe, others less safe. And these butuk, they just run around, go back and forth, and lash out at the villagers. And once they've done that, they all throw these banana leaf skirts off. They run to the lake and they all jump in the lake, and when it's finished. Next, Makapung, bull races, traditional bull races held in Jembrana in West Bali. The races have been brought, or the bull races have been brought to Western Bali by mostly the Maduris. As you probably know, the largest Muslim community in Bali is along the south and north coast in Western Bali. The north coast is kind of all the way west from Singaraja, Sirit, all the way to Gidimanu. And it's mostly Maduris and some East Javanese, and they've been there for centuries, literally. And they brought the bull races to that part of Bali. Starts usually in June. And it's actually to celebrate the harvest. So the first race only starts after the last rice harvest and lasts until they start to prepare for the next rice planting season sometime in November. It's 2 parts of the village in Jembrana, Ijugading River. Everybody on the left of the river is part of one team. That's the green shirts, and then everybody on the eastern side of the river is another team, and they're all in the red shirts, and they race each other. This is not a tourist event. This is culture brought from Madura. This is one of the sticks they use with nails, so it can get quite bloody. Local authorities try to get rid of these clubs, but it's a long process. Traditionally, they were using also whips and actually pulling and actually biting in the tail of the buffalo. This is a typical scene. It's like a makeshift circuit. They race usually in 3 pairs, and they go from the youngest, smallest buffaloes all the way to kind of the champs. And actually, they group them together in heats based on their best times. And then the fastest one can start first, then the second and the third, and so they keep timing them. So it's not only about overtaking, it's about the time that you set on the circuit to go around. Thousands of people from that area go watch this event. It's really a great entertainment for the locals. As the heats go on, you get bigger and bigger buffaloes and more decoration. Sometimes the jockeys are being dressed up because there's also prizes for the best dressed buffaloes and jockeys. People do break arms and legs, and not much worse than that. and he ended up in a ditch. They're not really albino buffaloes, but the white buffaloes, they're actually often amongst the fastest ones. At the end of the race, the buffaloes, depends a bit on the weather. If it is too hot, they don't do that. But when it's a little bit cloudy, then they bring the buffaloes to the beach. They watch them, but you see, the blood-stained butts of some of these buffaloes. They watch them, they dress them off, and then they go home. The biggest catch is actually the value of the winning buffaloes. They are worth hundreds of millions of rupiah, and they're being traded. At the end of the dry season, just before the planting of the new rice, you have another form of the makapung, and it's called the makapung lampit, which is in the same area. It's a little bit further inland. This is only once a year, usually around November, and this is in the wet rice fields. This is just before they plant the rice. Lampit, this is the lampit, the wooden plank that they use to level the rice fields just before they plant the new rice seedlings. They still use that today elsewhere as well, even though they may use machines to level the fields. But this is the lampit. That's why they call it makapung lampit. The rest works a little bit the same. It's not a long circuit. It's just one rice field, flooded, full with mud. It's about a 100-meter track, and that's where they race. Usually a few more, up to 5-6 pairs. And then they race through the mud with the jockey standing on the lampit behind. This is very similar to actually they use cows in West Sumatra, but they also use they do it the same in the wet rice field just before the rice planting. Penambengan. It's the biggest fishing harbor in West Bali, established hundreds of years ago. A mixture of, again, Maduris, but also Bugis from South Sulawesi. Nowadays they build these boats there. It's kind of a combination of the boats you have in Madura, the Pinisi boats from South Sulawesi. These are the typical fishing boats. They're actually pairs. It's like a male and a female. You see some differences here you see a little hut, like a chair high up. That's the scout. That's the guy that is looking for, they don't have sonar and so on. That's the scout that is looking for the fish schools. That's also where the nets are. And then this is the other boat. It's the female. Basically, when they throw out the nets, they go around 2 boats, they meet again, and then slowly they haul in the nets. So they really work as pairs. They're all couples. Most of the people on the boats are actually Balinese, local Balinese. It goes very well together. The Balinese, the Hindu Balinese and the Muslim people, the descendants from the Maduris and Bugis, they go well together there. Usually they go out in a late afternoon or early evening, depending on time. Come back early morning. If they don't catch anything, they may stay out for another day or 2. So usually the activities, they start around sunset. It's when they start to prepare the boats, replace engines, bring in new nets. It's a fishing harbor, and there's a lot of activities and it smells and so on. And they love to have people actually visit, tourists, local expats, whatever. Extremely friendly people, and you want to go on the boat, they'll bring you on the boat. I mean, they took us in a little boat in the evening, bring them to one of the bigger. I mean, you can do whatever you like. They are really proud of their lives, their work, and they love having people that are actually interested in going there. You want to go with them a whole night fishing? You're welcome. Bring a few packages of cigarettes, and and that's all. I love being amongst these kind of people, and it's a good laugh, and everything is possible. Usually early morning they come back again. Depends a bit on how high the tide is, and then they bring the fish still by hand on the shore. That's normally, that's the best time to visit. Early morning when they bring the fish on land. It's such a carnival of colors and activities, and this is actually under the jetty. It's really low tide, so they have to go under the jetty with all the baskets, and they don't catch anymore as much as they used to do, of course. The stories when you talk to them, and they have a couple of big fish processing factories there, all the way to canning and so on. It's quite a big industry there, but it's not anymore as it used to be. These are women that are waiting to steal some fish. It's really funny. Here you can see that. So there's the guys that bring the heavy baskets, and you have all these women kind of like swarming around the guys, and they're actually stealing fish. of course, they're all family. They all know each other, uncles, sisters, brothers, neighbors, whatever. And so, they kind of accepted the guys that bring the baskets. But it's really funny. They're just waiting there to, steal some fish. All right. Nusa Lembongan. Who has been to Nusa Lembongan? A few more. See? Nah, have you seen the seaweed farming there? It's reviving again. It used to be huge until I think about 10, 15 years ago or so. Kind of collapsed the market. Well, the market didn't really collapse, but they had discovered tourism. So all the seaweed farmers, they became drivers and guides and opened a house for accommodation, built huts and whatnot. But recently the seaweed prices have gone up worldwide, and seaweed farming has again is being revived in Nusa Lembongan and in Nusa Penida. You have actually these seaweed beds, just out on the relative flat part of the Villa des Plata, just before the drop-offs of the coral reefs. And that's where they have these huge frames of ropes, and that's where they actually plant the seaweed. And then when it is low tide, they go out with boats, sometimes walking, and they harvest seaweed, bring it to shore, and then dry it. All sorts of different seaweed: red, yellow, brown. This is agung, malt agung in the backdrop. And I think that's where it's reviving again. This is on the northeastern tip of Nusa Lembongan there. That's why I love Karangasem, because it's so diverse in culture. And when you drive from, let's say, Candidase to Amed or to Lamben or whatever, and don't take the main road, take any of the small roads, and you have all these rolling hills and all these little extremely small hamlet villages all spread out in the countryside. The countryside is beautiful. These hamlets are very small hamlets. They're not really special or spectacular, but they all have the best time to go there is during Manis Kuningan. So Kuningan is celebrated there like nowhere else, and it lasts up to 4 or 5 days, depending on which village you go. So in every village there, they celebrate Kuningan on a different day. They have a schedule. So I used to go there before Kuningan and ask in every little hamlet, when do you have your rejang, la la la. Take notes and then made a route, and then I go there, spend a whole week, and I visit every single little village and go to the temple at a different time. And they have these rejang dances, the most sacred dance with the virgin girls of the village. Here all the girls are forced to join the rejang. In some villages, if you don't want, you can pay. Okay, you don't have to go, but in most of the villages you have to. So they're not always smiling and so on, but at least it keeps the culture and these events alive. And so every different village, they have a different outfit. But it's very difficult to know when it is, what time, in which village, and so on. So you have to go around. There's one Australian guy, been going there for 25, 30 years, and he knows all the people. And the way I found out is when the ceremonies, and you've seen that, right? You have the guys that come there with selling balloons and toys and so at the temple grounds, right? So I met this guy who was at one of the ceremonies selling balloons. And so I bought all his balloons and I handed it out to all the kids in the village. So I made good friends with him, and he said, do you come here often? So this is one of the ways how I discover and kind of manage to be there. So I took his number and I put him in my phone, Pak Balon. He is still in my phone. And I asked him, okay, tell me every time, because they know when there is what kind of ceremony. So, and then he would just send me a text or call me up. He said, this village, this date, that time. Because he will be there with his balloons. And all I had to do is go there, buy all his balloons, give them to the kids. And that's how he kept sending me all this intel from Manis Kuningan. So that was my way of figuring out how to be here always on time. And after a while, the villagers start, because these are very small villages, they started to get to know me, and that's how you can get so up close on top of what's going on. Obviously, you dress up and I guess most of you know how to dress up and behave in a temple and the do's and don'ts and so on. This is really something. So this is just a mixture of different villages. Every village totally different. If they look the same, it means it's the same village. Most amazing are the headpieces. Obviously, they spend days to prepare with flowers and leaves and look at that. I mean, dozens of girls dancing through the temple grounds, and the actual festivities start after the dance. So the villagers, the rest of the village, is not interested in this. They're already gathering at where the fair is, where balon is, and everybody's selling bakso and whatnot. But the girls, they have to dance in the temple with the monk.